generally what you have is numerous health benefits from using those natural compounds. Pharmaceuticals generally take compounds from them and reproduce them, and they're generally water-based, whereas the oils are literally accepted into our body because we have oily molecules, oily cells. So the oil attracts and soaks it in.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Hello everyone, I am delighted to be joined on today's podcast by Karena. Karena Rathbone-Ariel is a passionate aromatherapy emotions coach. And she helps people to feel empowered with natural solutions and utilize essential oils for both emotional and physical well-being. Karena blows my mind. She is a certified aromatherapist, Swedish and stone massage therapist, and she's an internationally accredited emotional aromatherapy advisor. Karena has so many exciting things that she can share with us today, and how you can use emotions, the aromatherapy. I'm going to let her talk about all of this, but to enhance so many areas of your life and well-being. So Karena, a massive welcome to the Born to be Brilliant podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to be here with you. So I really am passionate about it. And I just believe it will help so many people.
It really will. I love talking to you about this, and I'd love for you to tell us just a little bit about, how you got here. Like, what it's such an interesting field, and it's not every day you come across somebody with the skill set that you have. So I'd love to just talk a little bit about that and what brought you on this journey to where you are today with this.
So I really came about essential oils. I think my mum had used them for years when I was a child and a teenager. So I was really familiar with sort of lavender and tea tree oils in the bathroom cupboard. But I didn't really love them or appreciate them until I had my own children. And then I started learning about natural things in the house and for natural well-being. So I had health issues that I didn't really think were much of them. I had ongoing migraines repeatedly. I had a lot of tension and a lot of anxiety in my body, but I hadn't really tuned into it. And my migraines actually got so bad. I was a PA for a rich businessman and his wife, and I worked in central London and at their Surrey house in Guildford. So it was highly stressful. And I began to get my migraines so regularly. I was Googling, what can I do? What can I stop my migraines? How can I stop them? And I looked at the Migraine Association and all of these sorts of different avenues, and they suggested yoga. And I remember going to my first yoga class thinking this is not going to work. But that actually halved the frequency of my migraines. And that was kind of me looking at, my body-mind connection sort of thing. And I think I had a panic attack on the yoga mat just by breathing in for 4 seconds and holding for 4 and then breathing out. So then I was like, wow, I should be able to do that. I was like a sudden wake up to how anxious I really was. And I was like, that's crazy. There's nothing dangerous sitting on the yoga mat. And so with that, I was like, okay, what else can I do? That halved my migraines. And then a mum at school, she was very sweet. She was saying, I found these amazing essential oils. And I was like, okay, she's the crazy oil lady. Okay, for a bit of a wide berth. I was like, okay. I didn't really believe in them. I had no idea. And then I tried them for my daughter's rash. And she'd had a rash for 8 months, and she'd seen different GPs. Every 2 weeks, we tried loads of different creams, emollient creams and things. And when we finally saw a dermatologist, he said, those are toxic products. You shouldn't have been using them on a baby long term. And I was really shocked. So I went headlong into research, and I was like, I want the best for my beautiful baby. I don't want to use anything dangerous or toxic. And the crazy oil lady, bless her, she kept saying, would you like to try these oils for your baby's rash? And we tried lavender and tea tree diluted and dabbed it on the spots on her legs. Because it was an unusual rash. It wasn't everywhere. It was just on her lower half of the body. And within 2 weeks, they had completely gone. And I was so astounded that it was that effective. I then tried some oils for my headaches to support the tension issues and the stress I was feeling. And that was like an off switch. And I was so surprised that for me, that was so incredibly effective. And that was wild orange and peppermint. I think I might have showed you when we met at the baby
Yeah.
show. But a drop
Yeah.
of orange, a drop of peppermint, just one drop of each,
Yeah.
and rubbed together and deeply inhaled. Well, I couldn't believe it was so effective. And I was like, how have I not come across this before? It was astounding.
Mm.
And I literally spoke to her the next day and I was like, I need to get involved with this. I need to know more. I need to share this. So it was hugely important. And I was like, I need to tell people if it can help me, it'll help others as well. So that really was the beginning. It was kind of like
It's
went for the medicinally associated with, skincare, but then it
yeah.
had all these other benefits, and I was just blown away. I was so
It
enthused.
really is. It's amazing how the things you'd been prescribed, that you put your trust in and you get, this is medicines basically, hadn't worked. And then to discover that actually they contain some nasties and that's not ideal and it's not helping. And then to go to something so natural and have such a fast result. I
Yeah.
think I know you talk about that this is like a lost art and it actually has massive historical origins. So this is not new and woo-woo. This is actually the foundation of that kind of medicine, right? There's
Absolutely. And so when you start looking at it, it's traditional healthcare, that's medicinal herbs and plants, which have
mm,
been there for thousands of years. And the studies actually show they found aromatic compounds like frankincense in ancient Egypt tombs, and just
wow.
incredible. For thousands of years, there's records which show the history of plants being used for our health and well-being, and that sort of began to change through the medieval period, sort of the 1500s, when science became bigger, and there was sort of a
Yeah.
division of the two. Whereas
Mm.
really, it's still science. It's completely organic chemistry, and I love to nerd out on that a bit, which is
Yeah.
there's a huge amount of research that you can tap into, but also in a way, there's like so much opportunity for more research on that. And
Mm.
generally, what you have is numerous health benefits from using those natural compounds rather than pharmaceuticals generally take compounds from them and
Mm.
reproduce them. So, like synthetic variants in that form, and they're generally water based, whereas the oils are literally accepted into our body because we have oily molecules, oily cells. So the
Mm.
oil attracts and soaks it in, and it penetrates the body really fast. So it's really surprising how effective it is if you've never come across it before.
Yeah.
Beautiful as well.
It is. It's fascinating. And I think so you can use, these always have power to help us both in physical like ailments like that. So like you say, that dabbing that on a rash and it cured, or the inhalation and the effect that had on the migraines. I know you also work really deeply in emotional centers and how it has an effect there. And I find that again wildly fascinating because it's essentially an essence and
Yeah.
the different ones can have different effects. And like, yeah, that's again another
So
area that
really,
just
yeah,
blows me
I
away.
think yes, absolutely, and that emotional, mental connection of aromas is so deeply linked with our experiences and our memories.
Mm,
Your body responds to that as one of the forgotten senses in a way. We think of taste, we think of sight, and we think of touch, but we don't often think of our sense of smell as being, that important. But if you
mm,
lost your sense of smell at any point, it's profound how it affects your taste. It's connected, and I really, when I realised the emotional aspect of the oils that had shifted something for me, was really when I noticed after I think it was about 2 years of using oils, essential oils, I suddenly realised I could speak about my late brother. And that was so powerful for me because it was something that I really hid and did not refer to because it was too painful. And I would
mm,
choke on my words, I'd feel a lump in my throat, my eyes would well
mm,
up. And I realised I can speak about him without being completely emotionally overwhelmed. And it
mm.
was actually a beautiful sort of unlocking of my emotions, that realization that
Yeah.
actually I could speak lovingly and appreciate allowing that release. That
Yeah.
was a huge light bulb moment for me because I was obsessed with vetiver oil, which helps you process things emotionally. And I love
Mm.
the smell. And my body actually was craving something that was really beneficial. And then I realized when you look at the emotional depth, this has literally unlocked an emotion within me, which gave me some more freedom to live and accept myself and my experiences. And that's really what inspired me to do the emotions coaching, because it's like releasing the pressure. I mean, with grief it comes and goes, it has changeability, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
allowing it to come without being in fear of it is a real shift for me. So the emotions, I realized from my personal experience, is just absolutely incredible. It's freeing and it's accepting, and there's a different self-awareness with it.
Was that was that an almost accidental discovery with that you became obsessed with the scent? You were really loving that. You were obviously attracted to it, and
Yeah,
then you noticed the impact that it had, and then kind of became more and more interested, like you say, in the emotions coaching and so on. So it wasn't like you set out to go, right, I need to overcome this, so I'm going to use this oil. It was more like, oh wow, this has really changed something for me and unlocked
absolutely.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is exactly how it was. It was like a sudden
Mm.
realization that
Mm.
what felt like a burden or an oppressive feeling in my body was
Mm.
suddenly not quite as heavy. It shifted in its shape. I talk about emotions as having different depth, different texture. Actually, I
Yeah,
quite like the way that your senses cross over. So something, as a massage therapist, I can talk about that weight on the shoulders. You know, where you feel
yeah,
burdens, or when we have like tightness in our chest or in our stomach. That's
yeah.
often an emotional, physical response. But it's almost like the using the essential oil suddenly allowed me to connect everything again.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really crazy to realize how deep that had affected me.
So if somebody's listening to this, or I have things going through my mind now, going, so this is I'm all for superpowers. I'm like, okay, how could I unlock this thing or release this thing? So if somebody is thinking, right, I have something holding me back, whether that's personal or business related, and you just know that it's a bit of an obstacle or a barrier, a sticking point, and you're thinking, well, maybe there's something here that could do, there could be some unlocking. What's the process? Like, obviously there's the different oils and the different scents
Mhm.
have their different functions, and
Yeah,
there's a lot to learn, isn't there, about, well, what do I need? What do I need to be inhaling? What do I need to be
yes.
consuming? Or, there's so much. It's such a big world.
Yeah, and where do you start? Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah, where do
what
you
I find,
start?
yeah, so what I find fascinating is what you like the smell of is quite often what your body's needing. So if you love
Love
a
that.
citrus oil, citruses are very uplifting, and I use this upward motion because they bring you
Yeah,
up. They can give you that light-heartedness, which is the light of the sun is infused in those fruit rinds, which the citruses are cold
yeah,
pressed from the rind. And even the color of those fruits is bright and sunny, isn't it? And it has this amazing chemistry that actually helps you emotionally feel boosted. So that's really interesting. And some people love the mints. Peppermint can be a really uplifting, sort of enlivening oil. Or if you love some florals, if you really adore geranium, which is quite a powerful, heady aroma, there's often like nurturing feminine essences. I call that a heart oil because it's very much a heart nurturing, emotional, you're deep within your heart. It's a comforting, gentle,
yeah.
feminine oil. And that can really help you process emotions as well. So, quite often, where your preference already is, like what perfume do you wear, that might be a
Mm,
signal. And
it's a
that can
clue.
be like, oh, let's start with what you like. And then we'll
Yeah.
sort of unpeel the layers, if you like. That's a really
It's
good place to
that
start.
I like that. Yeah, I'm definitely a drawn to citrus and fruity scents anyway. So if I were choosing perfume, in fact, I have one on my desk and it's English pear and sweet pea. And another one of my favorites is an orangey tangerine. I really am attracted to that kind of scent. That's my go-to. So yeah, and I know you've shown me a little bit about like what that could mean, and where, what some of the benefits of those flavors are.
Mm.
One of the things I hear quite a lot are when people are struggling with confidence, and they're feeling, maybe inhibited, or that confidence is holding them back. And I talk a lot in the work I do about confidence isn't something that you get more of. You already have it all within you. It's usually that it's just layered up with toxic thinking and beliefs that, you're covering it. So it's all in there. It's about unleashing it. But I'd love to talk a little bit about how, your work and with the oils and emotions, you can actually hack your confidence.
Yeah, I love this, and actually, yeah, it's so clever how it can work. So, what you've mentioned there about your thinking patterns as well, that's often linked with a little bit of self criticism. And quite
Yeah.
often we find that people love spices or powerful oils. Ginger is one that I always think about with confidence because it helps you just avoid procrastination. And often we talk ourselves out of doing things and out of action. But the citruses, again, they move your energy forward. So if you're sort of stuck on a line of thinking, you could diffuse some essential oils, which are citrus, to help shift your focus and actually move you forward. So rather than staying in that sort of negative pattern of not progressing, you can sort of allow yourself to release your focus on that past issue where you've had maybe a bad experience, and you can build a new pathway. And if you practice it, you can develop your brain patterns. And I really love that. There's like a neurological science involved. If you're habitually smelling an oil, you can form a new neurological pathway in the brain, which is
Wow.
incredible. So if you're
Yeah.
expecting to use it, I mean, we actually spoke quite recently about
Yeah.
hypnobirthing, didn't we? And when you're
Yeah.
habitually using something in a way, you can pair it with a visualization, and that can
Yeah.
help you shift forwards into where I'm going, who I'm going to be. And yeah, I do think that's lovely. And orange and ginger go together as well. Lemon and ginger is a famous combination, sort of medicinally, but on an emotion
Yeah.
level, that's really a great combination too. So there's a couple of little things you can try.
Yeah.
Or if you feel like your mind is whizzing along and worrying about something, try using some tree oils which stabilize you and they help you anchor, sort of ground yourself.
Mm.
And that's a really lovely option as well. So again, start with what you like. What's the aromas
Yeah.
that you like? There's often a subtle message in there. And I
Yeah.
think actually we talk about the body as if it's separate, but it's so intrinsically linked. Our body systems are not separate. So our emotional well-being impacts our physical body as well. So our
Mm.
stress hormones will be high, which can affect female hormones, reproductive hormones. And that's a whole other aspect of sort of a whole holistic aromatherapy. So if you
Mm.
have, perhaps a gut imbalance, that's going to also affect your emotions as well. So
Mm.
there's kind of layers that we can work on. Whether it's a
Mm.
physical issue you're dealing with, there might be an emotional link to it as well. Quite
Yeah.
often there's a case where there's a connection between the body and the mind. So that's
Yeah.
really amazing. It opens up lots of signposts in a way. The body has a
Yeah.
message for you, but often we're so busy we just don't listen. We don't recognize the
Don't
signs.
see them. Yeah. Or we put them down to something else, or, and carry on. But I think you touched on there about the body and the mind. And I was actually just thinking how there are the different ways you can use these oils. And I love a diffuser, and I love creating nice aroma in the room when I'm working as well. And I know that some are safe to ingest and you can put them in food, or I've been known to put a drop in a herbal tea. And I want to kind of talk a bit about the gut and how that plays a role, but also just on when you would perhaps go to that as an ingesting option as opposed to an inhaling, or yeah, just the different benefits there. Because I
Yeah,
know we can put it
absolutely.
on our skin too, and that's another thing. But just in terms of the gut's role in all of this as well with
Yeah,
emotions.
so we often speak about the gut as the seat of our emotion, and as women, we hold a lot of our emotions in that area of the body, sort of under around the belly button, the emotional center. There's reproductive organs there as well, you know. So the gut is really interesting, and I often refer to it as the second brain.
Yeah.
Often we are sort of connected with our emotions so much. A lot of people get anxiety in the stomach, but if you have symptoms like IBS, or if you have trouble digesting issues, it can also be trouble digesting life issues. And so in a way it's quite interesting to approach that. And the oils you're mentioning for internalization are what you're known as food substances anyway. You know, peppermint tea we're really familiar with, and one drop of the oil is like 28 cups of peppermint tea. And citruses are commonly used in, you know, orange blossom for flavoring cakes, or lemon in coulis, or all sorts of different things. And fever tree tonic has it as flavorings. So it's not unusual, but often English aromatherapists are shocked by that because they're taught not to. But with the French aromatherapy training I've done, there's a different aspect. There's a herbal aspect of the oils. There's a potency, definitely. But yes, if you're feeling in your tummy sort of discomforts, addressing that can really help settle the emotions down. We like to so many times isolate them, whereas I'm always working
Mm.
to bring them back together, you know, the emotional issue as well as the physical. And so there's cleansing oils. So I often pair oregano, tea tree, and lemon together. They are a brilliant combination. And you don't just, you know, guzzle them from the bottle. We're talking small amounts, and you can put them in little veggie capsules, sorry. And the capsules just come apart, and you put the droplets in, and then you close it again. So that's a safe way of getting it into the stomach acids, and you can take that with your food. So it's very gentle, and the body digests it very easily. But you know, equally, if you don't want to internalize, you can dilute it and put it either on the belly, directly on location with carrier oil. Oregano's hot, so you have to dilute it if you're going to do that. So caution with oregano, and
Yeah.
very powerful. But if it's diluted correctly, then on the skin it's fantastic. So if my children have issues, I'll put it on their feet, and the feet
Yeah.
has lots of sort of sweat glands and entry pockets into the blood system. So it's absorbed very rapidly into the blood system within roughly 20 minutes. It's distributed around your body where it needs to go. But the skin of
Mm.
the feet is slightly tougher, so it's not as
Hmm.
sensitive as other areas of the body. And yeah, it's incredible. So on emotional levels, you know, oregano is incredibly cleansing, as is tea
Yeah.
tree. Tea tree's one that I talk about with emotional boundaries. You know, if you're absorbing feelings that from others that aren't actually your own, you can shift that. You can cleanse that away, and tea tree is so cleansing. It's quite a nice oil to utilize that way. And then the lemon is helps the body sort of flush out anything that's not ours. So it's a really interesting combination, those three. But of course, you can use other ones like peppermint and caraway, tarragon, fennel. There's so many more, and coriander. Gosh, there's literally thyme. All of those sort of herbs are very, very
Mm.
cleansing and potent. So there's lots of ways to look at it.
I think, yeah, and I think the fact that you can do work there to rebalance your gut and make that a happy place that actually can have an impact on our emotions is,
Yes,
again, something that I think so overlooked, because we'll think of addressing emotions from a brain perspective, a mind. It's, that's all in your head. And whilst I think, yes, we're more familiar with how, okay, yeah, but sometimes something emotionally that's going on might cause a rash, or it can come out in our skin, we forget the gut part of this. And that's why
yes,
I think that it's it's a whole nother thing to talk about with that, and having that, you can put something in your system right there into your gut and make a difference there, which can then impact like all kinds of things. And that excites me, because I think, well, imagine if you have got something there, imbalanced in the gut that you don't know about, could have been living with for years, that once cleansed and rebalanced could shift something in your mind that could enhance your performance. Like,
Yeah,
imagine
exactly.
that.
And often there's underlying issues. Like when I started my holistic journey, I thought I was fine. Like I actually was
Mm,
like, so somebody asked me, "How are you?" I would say, "Yeah, I'm fine, thanks." And I wouldn't even think, well, actually, I've had regular migraines every week, and I've lost days off work, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I used to get so badly sick with them, I'd lose the vision in my left eye, and I'd also get really, really sick, nauseous, and actually vomiting as well. It was terrible. And yeah, if somebody asked me if I was fine, I was like, yeah, okay. But actually, I held so much tension within my body. I did have gut issues as well. So it's like there
mm,
can be an underlying root cause going on that we haven't been aware of. And generally, doctors will treat the symptoms of an issue rather than looking at the underlying issue. So the gut flora is hugely important. And interestingly, we've mentioned oregano, that has a regulatory effect on the gut flora. So I find
mm,
that really incredible. There's peer-reviewed studies that show oregano, very small quantities regularly over, a set period of time has been studied to help regulate the flora. And so that's incredible. You can take it for an emotional thing, but it will also physically benefit you. And I often think of the skin as a reflection of the gut. So if we
yeah.
have ongoing skin issues, sometimes psoriasis, my mother had that actually for years, really, really bad. She had really dry, itchy patches on her inner arms, behind her knees, and on her back when I was small. And actually, dietary things are so important. And so when we talk about like the oils, they fit in alongside the dietary balance. So if we look at our diet, with all my emotions clients, we will talk about dietary issues and how they're currently eating and if there could be any improvements. So if we're not eating any veggies or fruit, fruit again are interesting because they have that wonderful sunlight ripened process and they can be really beneficial to lift your mood. So, eat
Mm,
sunshine foods if you're feeling quite gloomy or
mm,
despairing. So that can be a really interesting shift to look at as well. But again, with the oils, I feel like it's completely woven. It's like it fits amongst all of that dietary,
yeah.
emotional, physical. It's like entwined. Yeah, I
That's
really think
interesting
it's
about
integrated.
this. Yeah, the psoriasis, actually, I have had that like a long, long time ago for a period of time, and then it eventually went. And for me, it was on the back of my head, so the lower part of my scalp. And it was really embarrassing when you'd go to the hairdressers and I'd have these flaky patches, but it was psoriasis, and I'm certain it was stress related. And I
Yeah.
have had other periods of time where it's become apparent that a bit of eczema really has shown up as a result of stress. And I think that, again, that will probably be, like you say, tension in the gut, that imbalance, and then it comes out. Our bodies are very clever, and then they'll flush things out or show these signs. And it does fascinate me that we can clear them away really, what's what I'm looking for, in a gentle way that doesn't require other nasties inside
Yes.
other medications that aren't always helpful anyway.
Mm. And I think as well, the probiotics, if even supplements are important. Like if anybody's had
Yeah.
antibiotics, they have such a big effect on the gut flora that while you take it to make yourself feel better, the probiotic balance can be so badly stripped back that after
Ah,
every antibiotic course that somebody's completed, they really do need to replace some of that gut flora with probiotics. And yet
mm,
that's not often known, it's not often talked about, but it's really important because it's
mm,
about the body bouncing back. And it's the immune system of our body is created from drawing out nutrients in our food. So
yeah.
if we've stripped the flora back, that can cause havoc. It can really create an impact. I mean, obviously we want to use them when we need them for serious issues, and they, amazing medical discovery. I'm not saying completely don't use medicinal things at all, but this is a really complementary way of looking at the body
Yeah.
and supporting the rebalance. And so that it goes hand in hand. I don't understand how we've been so far removed from combining the two, but it's
No. Right.
powerful. It's really powerful for the emotions as well.
What's one of the best ways to get probiotics into our gut, would you say?
Well, there's so many different varieties. There are probiotic foods you can look at as well.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoy the mini sort of cleanse that I refer to with the oregano, lemon, and tea tree. I think that's a
Yeah.
really brilliant way of, sometimes when we have a medicinal remedy, we can have a low grade left over. Like sometimes we can have got rid of an infection, but there might
Yeah.
be some low rumblings where it hasn't quite been removed. And we have this
Mm-hmm.
sort of standardized, let's get my word out, standardized procedure of, like, 7 to 10 days
Mm.
with medicine, or 3 to 7 days. I think we usually have an advice there, but really on the individual basis, that's really key. So for some people
Yeah.
it might be 5 days, some people it might be 10 days, or maybe 12.
Mm.
So we sort of assume that that package we've been given is going to do the job exactly as described. However, it could be that your internal metabolism has something else going on, or maybe you need a little bit more. So that's
Mm.
how I would use the oils afterwards to help regulate that gut flora.
Yeah.
Um, and alongside it, and in very small but regular doses. So with emotions and physical, you want to repeatedly use your oils. So every 2 to 4 hours is how the body metabolizes your oils, which
Mm-hmm.
is interesting. So often we'll put something on in the morning, we think, oh, I should be fine now, but we might
Mm.
need a top up depending on our
Yeah.
own metabolism, the way it's been used. So often I'll say to somebody, if you're using it for like muscular aches, repeat it, apply it again, a couple of hours later. Or if it's worn off, you have to sort of tune in a little bit. So
Yeah.
the way slowing down to notice is half the issue quite often. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many
Gosh,
different ways of
I'm
looking at it, isn't there?
yeah, there are. Mind boggles. I know I have got some lovely bits from you, which I'll report back on and see, like, and share the journey and the impact that I experienced, because I'm going to actually be doing something this week, actually, along these lines. So I will share that. Yeah. So I think, yeah, yeah, the way these oils can heal, help us overcome deep rooted things that we've had buried, shift our mindsets, unlock emotions, and help us process things. The gut mind connection, all of these things I think are so overlooked, but yet so important in enhancing our health, our well-being, and also our, like I said before, our performance, our ability to thrive in so many ways, relationships, work,
Yeah.
whatever we may be, seeking to achieve, sports, even physical abilities.
Mm.
It's like a little hidden gem there that, that can really unlock people. And I'm so grateful to have you share this. I feel like we've just started. There's so much more.
Oh, no, thank
um
you. I think as well it's about self awareness, isn't it? About how
yeah.
our body personally. I love that it
Yeah.
makes you come back to tuning in. Like, rather than
Yeah.
all of the, my coach often refers to like the shoulds, rather than like, oh,
Mm.
I should be here or my body should be doing that. It's more about saying, what is happening and what am I noticing? And also,
Yeah.
not shaming anything, think, oh, I should be, particularly on mindset issues, often we feel we should be doing better or we should be going somewhere, or and actually the oils, when you stop and breathe them in that moment of sort of self-acceptance, they give you that pause and help you to work on a mindfulness path. And so there's no shaming, there's no judgment, there's just literally, what have I got here, what's happening right
Mm.
now? And that literally brings you back to you and sort of managing how you want to be, and your emotions and your feelings and your personal body. It's really interesting, I think. Just
Yeah.
like that, no two pregnancies are the same, and no two life experiences are the same. We kind of
Mm.
have to stand up and recognize where we are on our path and what have we
Yeah.
tried. Could we try something different? So I feel like there's a real gentleness that comes through, but a real incredible flow of energy change. It sort of helps you come into your own. Come
Yeah.
into your self awareness. I think that's huge, and then the power of
Yeah.
that is really fascinating. In fact, it just reminded me. there was a study done in the late 70s. I can't remember if it's 1978 or 76, but there were some studies done on some mice that, not mice, the rabbits, get the right animal. There were some science studies done on rabbits, and they were testing a dietary change in high cholesterol diets. And they had different groups where they were reviewing how their sort of different diets were working for them. But one particular group of rabbits weren't having the same effect as everybody else. And so the high cholesterol diet is quite toxic. And, there were certain elements that they were looking at to see, but this one particular control group didn't have it. So they decided to study what was different about this group. And they realized that the person who was administering the diet, the food, would take a moment and sit with them. And they would love them and stroke them and care them and show them affection. So they realized that the way it was processed in their bodies didn't have a severe effect because they were having that nurturing and affection given to them at the same time. So they were associating the food with care and attention rather than just dietary stuff, just put there for them. They're just, thrown to them almost, And they realised that the effect of that mindset shift of associating food with love, care and attention helped their bodies cope with what was going in that wasn't actually so great for them. And it didn't have as big an impact. And I think that was so interesting that if we look at how we think about things, we can reduce the sort of toxic effect of life experiences, and also how our body responds. That thought process connection is really powerful. So if we feel like, yes, I'm being empowered, yes, I've got these positive attitudes, yes, I'm using my lemon to lift me up, that intention has such a huge effect on how our body regulates itself. And that just came to my mind because I think it's really an amazing connection, isn't it? I feel like that's
definitely
fantastic for your mindset,
Yeah, definitely. And if and I think it can also, probably can help us as well. Like if we want to consume something we don't really like, but we know it's really good for us, it can help us to become friends with it. And if we have beliefs around things that we're putting into our bodies that we feel are really, really bad for us, even if they're not that bad, you could have that effect on your gut because you're going to then potentially carry tension around that as well.
Yes, definitely.
And so if you're on a energy level almost repelling the thing, then your body's going to tune into that too.
And that mind-body connection is so profound. I think that's just fascinating. They sort of accidentally found those results through those tests. But it also gives us a lot more hope and sort of positivity, doesn't it? That if we actually choose to use something and test it out for good reasons, and we're looking in at nurturing ourselves with a mindset as well as our oils, I feel like the combination of those two together is really amazing. Like the effect of it, like for me, it's been profound with my grief journey and my experiences in life. And I love sharing this forward because it's like a beam of light. It's a ray of hope for people.
It is.
And I feel like if you feel swamped by deep emotions, we actually have something that you can practice using, and it's going to become even more powerful once you realize it's working. And I just feel that's so woven together for me now with that. The beauty of the scents you already love actually have an amazing benefit physically and mentally to a level that you perhaps don't expect. I think that's pretty cool.
I think it is amazing. And like you said, it's not about should, it's about could, though. I always like to shift a should for a could, and it's what could be possible. And you've certainly opened my mind and my eyes too. I love the way you explain the science, and I often I need the science, I need to understand. And just like you said, how you met your the crazy oil lady, and I'm sure lots of people know someone who I didn't even realize that actually I think I have met somebody before. And you're just okay, whatever that does. Or I think I had something once and I was like, oh right, that's gonna do anything. And we just think of it, or I know I have been guilty of thinking of it as just a, oh, well, yeah, it's just, no big deal. But actually, learning from you and hearing about the science behind this, the deep rooted history in Chinese medicine, and in even in our, where medicine even came from. And I'm thinking, when I talk medicine, I'm thinking about, healing, enhancing, and empowering. And yeah, I'm so awakened to this. I know anyone like me who also likes the science to back things up will also be intrigued. And I'd love to give them the option to reach out to you, Karena, if they have questions, or like, I'd really love to know more about this, or this is something that's going on for me, and could you help me? Could people reach out to you?
Absolutely. I really love this. And actually, what you've just said about the science is really interesting because, thousands of years ago, they did forest bathing in Japan. And the science has only just caught up with the fact that when you are doing forest bathing or you're immersed in trees and nature, they are releasing compounds into the air. And 2 years ago, they discovered that there's a science that actually something does happen. You're inhaling molecules from those trees, like natural compounds that you can't see, but that are in the atmosphere and aroma. And so they've proven that forest bathing is healthy and good for you. Whereas they've known that, and it's been a practice holistically for centuries. And so it's nice that we can even use our tree oils, those aromatic compounds, like the immune system of the plant. The immune system of the plant is balancing to our immune system and our emotions. And they're kind of just getting on board with some of the sciences there, proving what's been sort of known in different cultures for centuries. And that just shows, doesn't it? We need to keep looking. We need to keep researching with the science to help that connection be profound and recognised as such.
Yeah.
Definitely. Absolutely. Everybody has questions, please reach out. I absolutely love this.
Amazing. Well, we'll put the link to all your links, we'll put in the show notes so that people can click and send you a message. I know that I'd be like, right, I need to ask her this. I want to find out about that. But Karena can offer all kinds, right from the actual products and oils themselves. She can support you in a coaching capacity, an advisory, whatever you may need, or if you would like to go deeper on this, then just reach out and ask her, because she's super friendly and very knowledgeable and could unlock something quite magical. So Karena, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I could talk about this with you, and I will continue to talk about this with you forever, but I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom on our podcast today. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.